tastes like shit. But you were pretty much technically lied to since the start about methylene blue. It's not that amazing on its own. It's really... Before I start this video, please bless us by leaving a like and a comment. They help the algorithm a lot. And subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of our videos. And you can go to our website or the link down in the description and claim your free gift. Absolutely free. It is a course about peptides called The Life-Changing Magic of Peptides, created by Brenden Henry himself in order to introduce you to this world of peptides that we love so much. If you go on YouTube right now and look up methylene blue, you'll see so many videos about all its amazing benefits, right? Because we know it's amazing. It has benefits of improving mitochondrial function, primarily through increasing the activity of complex 4. It can also improve oxygen utilization in red blood cells. It's being studied for preventing and treating Alzheimer's disease. People anecdotally get a lot of prominent, really nootropic benefits from it, including myself. I am a methylene blue consumer, as you can tell from my tongue and this wine glass with methylene blue. And this is totally how I consume it in real life, by the way, not something just for the video. But anyway, so I've listed all these benefits and they are quite amazing. You do want that in your stack if it's something that prominent, that powerful, and that cheap. It's very, very cheap to get. Why not implement it in your stack, right? That's a solid reasoning. However, we do have a few caveats that we want to discuss with methylene blue specifically. First off, you were pretty much technically lied to since the start about methylene blue. It's not that amazing on its own. It's really its metabolite, leucomethylene blue, which is reduced methylene blue. So the methylene blue you see here is in its oxidized form, Mb+. And then to transform it into leucomethylene blue, we utilize a molecule called nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. And this molecule is primarily synthesized in something called the pentose phosphate pathway. So this is where we get the majority of our NADPH, or nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate, in the reduced form. So NADPH is what will transform methylene blue into leucomethylene blue. That's why you may have heard that people with something called a glucose 6 phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency cannot really take methylene blue, even if they do have carbon monoxide poisoning. It'll just worsen it and cause more hemolysis. So you might say, how is that a caveat, since basically we do have NADPH in our body? It does transform methylene blue into leucomethylene blue, so where's even the problem? Well, really the problem is you are introducing a molecule that's already oxidized into your system. So number one, you do not want to take too much. Microdosing is the way with methylene blue. Number two, we see bactericidal effects of methylene blue in vitro, but it does make a ton of sense since it is in its oxidized form as it is. It needs the NADPH in order to make it non-oxidized, in order to make it leucomethylene blue, which really has all the benefits. That's why I've said you've technically been lied to or misinformed, I hate that word, about methylene blue from the start, because it is technically a prodrug.
Hey, Brendan here. And if you're using red light therapy or you're exposed to a lot of sunlight, then please do not take methylene blue until you hear what I have to say here. What Dr. Ali is describing with this redox cycling, which is where methylene blue gains these 2 additional electrons to become leucomethylene blue through NADH, is very important in the context of sunlight, but particularly red light in the 600 nanometer band range, because it's been proven both in vitro and in vivo that when red light interacts with leucomethylene blue, it excites it and causes it to dump these additional electrons onto oxygen, which forms superoxides, which is a reactive oxygen species, and in that process, leucomethylene blue turns back into the oxidized form. So this not only requires more of an antioxidant status, such as a higher endogenous production of glutathione, which is a peptide, to protect against the oxidative damage, but it also burns through more NADH. And this redox cycling, which keeps going on, could start to impair mitochondrial functioning above a certain threshold. So the good news is that you can avoid this by simply not using red light therapy or being exposed to strong sunlight after taking methylene blue. So if you have planned in your schedule that day to be outside and it's supposed to be a very sunny day, or you plan to use red light therapy, or you plan to go to the beach and you live close to the equator, then please do not take methylene blue on that day. You can simply take it on a different day. Now, nobody else has been talking about this, which is why I feel obligated to speak up and talk about it, because they really should be. Now back to Dr. Ali.
tastes like shit. But sorry about that. But yeah, number three, we have seen methylene blue be proven to cause DNA damage, especially when copper and iron concentrations were elevated. Now, this was an in vitro experiment, but that actually makes it a little bit more valuable for me somehow, because we see that really it's not a hormetic stressor, it is a prodrug, basically. You want your methylene blue to be converted into leucomethylene blue for all the beneficial effects. And the absence of that conversion, it really results in, well, any effects that you can expect from a pro-oxidant or an oxidant molecule. And one of them that's shown in this study is the DNA damage, which is going to raise your potential for carcinogenesis. And when the DNA damage is more pronounced with copper and iron being in elevated concentrations, or even any concentrations at all, that really tells me that people with something called Wilson's disease or something called hereditary hemochromatosis should completely stay away from it in order to avoid this DNA damage and, well, in general, pro-oxidant effect. The fourth caveat I have with it is that the kidneys play a major role in the metabolism of methylene blue, particularly the excretion of it. So some of it is excreted completely unchanged. So that's partially how we do get rid of it. And when you take a drug or any molecule, you really want your body to get rid of it if it's an external, especially small molecule drug. Methylene blue can be considered that, even with something like, cholesterol-lowering drugs, etc. You want them to be potentially eventually excreted from the body because that's how they are studied mostly. That's how their effects are studied. So if you're someone with reduced kidney function, I would not go with the usual dosing that you see online, which is, so 10 milligrams a day is the standard dosing you see online. I would go with much lower than that, but talk to whoever your healthcare provider is or your transformation specialist is, right? Anyway, how would we deal with all of these caveats? Because there are quite a few. Well, just to take out the easy one, if you have hereditary hemochromatosis or Wilson's disease, just stay away from it. It is not worth it. It is not worth the risk, in my opinion. Because in my opinion, if you have hereditary hemochromatosis or Wilson's disease and you just use methylene blue, even if you do feel the beneficial effects of it initially, and even if you do our other caveat, let's say fail-safes, you will still probably increase your risk of cancer, okay? Because the DNA damage it causes, especially in the presence of copper and iron, more particularly copper, you will increase your risk of cancer due to that DNA damage. So in my opinion, if they did a long-term randomized control trial, one with a control group, the other with hereditary hemochromatosis group, the third with a Wilson's disease group, in my opinion, we'll see more cancer prevalence in the hereditary hemochromatosis group. Now, these are all three groups taking methylene blue long-term, than the control group. And you'll see even more cancer prevalence in the Wilson's disease group that's using methylene blue than the hereditary hemochromatosis group. So that's the first caveat. It's very easy to get rid of. The second caveat I want to deal with is that when you are ingesting it, you are ingesting a pro-oxidant molecule. You should know that. It's a pro-drug, but it is an oxidant, okay? What I would do is take it with an antioxidant of some sort. So you can go with 500 to 1,000 milligrams of N-acetylcysteine, which in and of itself is an antioxidant, but it's also a cysteine donor that synthesizes your own endogenous antioxidant peptide by donating the cysteine group, which is glutathione, okay? You can also go for something like TUDCA with it to take it, because that will also address the other caveat I have, which is the bactericidal effects. So it could protect the gut microbiome if you take it with TUDCA specifically. In my opinion, due to TUDCA being more of a direct antioxidant than N-acetylcysteine, I think it'll have a more beneficial effect on reducing the oxidative stress that methylene blue will cause on your gut microbiome if you take it with TUDCA than N-acetylcysteine. But those are two options that are very accessible, very benign, and really beneficial in general. Finally, with the bactericidal effects, even if you are taking it with the antioxidant, you, in my opinion, also want to be taking a probiotic with it, a really high quality probiotic. So one that I usually recommend is a Seed Symbiotic, not a sponsor, unfortunately, but yeah. So that's one that I do recommend. And taking a high quality probiotic with it, if you're going to take it long term, is only going to be beneficial because you're protecting your gut long term. You're not just letting the damage build up slowly. You're not letting any gut microbiome changes happen in your gut. So we do see that with something like with artificial sweeteners. There's studies showing that long-term consumption of them actually does change the microbiome in ways that, so we don't know what this means. We don't know what this does. The microbiome is such a black box. I would not want to harm mine, even with methylene blue, which is a really a supplement that I enjoy very much and I utilize pretty much daily. But Brenden Henry had told me that, in his opinion, due to the lack of long-term consistent safety data on it, he would recommend that it's microdosed 3 times a week instead of every day. And at first I disagreed with him, but then it did make sense to me. Now, I'm not going to do it personally. I'm going to take it every day. But for your safety, because I don't like to recommend things that are potentially unsafe, I do think Brendan is right about taking it every other day or 3 times a week if you're going to microdose it with the N-acetylcysteine slash TUDCA, with the probiotic, and making sure that if you have Wilson's disease, if you have hereditary hemochromatosis or something along the lines, so the explanation for it is with hemochromatosis, you'll have very high serum iron levels, and that'll increase the potential of DNA damage that methylene blue can cause. And with something like Wilson's disease, you have higher copper levels in your organs, which will cause more DNA damage in your organs by methylene blue due to the high copper presence. And if you have some form of kidney disease, reduced renal function, do avoid it. In acute kidney injuries, you might want to avoid it completely. In chronic kidney disease, you might want to avoid it completely or talk to your doctor. But that about sums it up. This is the caveats we have with methylene blue, the warnings nobody really told you about, and teaching you that it's really not that amazing. It's the prodrug for something amazing. That's called leukomethylene blue. But yeah, this was Dr. Ali, the head transformation specialist at the Peptide Science Institute. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please like the video and bless us with a comment as well, because it helps the algorithm massively. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe for more, and yeah, goodbye.